time to talk about insane collectors. What on earth are you people doing? I swore in the previous take, so I gotta redo it. I've done it now, and I've made it more obvious that I've just done a retake. Anyway, how's it going? Today I'm talking about collectors who are mental in the canoodles. The people who collect not one film, but 100 versions of that one film. I get it, it's a fun, thing on TikTok to be like, I've got 100 different versions of Titanic. Oh look, here's version 101. Fine, alright, you do you. It's fine, alright? It's normal. It's totally normal. Maybe not. I have two avenues of this that I have noticed in the past. The first one being the classic. I have 100 versions of the same film on one format. I think that's dumb, personally. I think that's fine. If you want people to walk into your house and go into your cinema room and be like, wow, that is far too much money spent on a VHS of Titanic. What are you doing? Then go for it. If you enjoy that, then that's you. I noticed two posts on the 4K UHD Collectors group on Facebook. One person, you're not a real collector if you don't own 51 copies of Godzilla 1998 on VHS. Just saying. And these vary from mint sealed to not mint at all. Some of them have lenticular covers. Really cool. Except that it's just that eye of Godzilla. Hold on, let me show you what it looks like. It's not even that. Oh my god, it's the image on the spine. You see that image on the spine there? Yeah, that's what it looks like, except it's the whole cover. Instead, we get a foot. Oh. Yeah, I'm going to say the eye's better, because the foot looks like garbage. Yeah, I wonder if the film's garbage as well. I know, I got that on 4K, my god. You know, sometimes you just regret something? Yeah, anyway. This other person has 100 versions of X-Men 2 on DVD, which is just weird, and most of them are the same copy, but then they have the occasional, oh, here's a different covered version, here's two different Blu-rays, here's a slip-covered version of the DVD. They're all from the UK, except these really, really slim ones. There's a VHS in there as well. I don't understand that personally. It's a weird fad, collecting one film. What are your rules? At least the guy of Godzilla and the person with Titanic. Does the person with Titanic have different versions of the one film, or is it all the same, collector's edition 2-pack? Because it was a really long film, so of course you've got two different VHS cassettes to put together. I think for the most part they all were. Not all of them, but the most part. So they have a basis. The main body of work is the 2-pack collector's edition VHS. But if I can get a different version or a different cover of the VHS, I will do that, make it a bit spicy, So there's that. If your basic rule is having the exact same thing, identical in every single way, 100 times over, go for it, sure. But if you're gonna be like, I'm gonna collect X-Men 2 on DVD, and then be like, oh, there are all these different countries that it came out on, because you realize that DVD is a format that has different region codes, and then they've got slipcovers, and then there's Blu-rays, and then there's 4Ks. Maybe it's a step too far. See, maybe VHS is a better thing to go with because there's no region to it, you can just do whatever. The only difference is usually if it's in a different language. Say if it's from, Germany, or it's from Japan? I don't know. Something that has different letters and characters for its words. That would be interesting. I've got Eraserhead on DVD. I don't need it. I have the Criterion. I only got it because it was from Japan. Look at that. It's got a different cover. You open it up and look. I think it's like the Eraserhead 2000 version that they've done. It's still digitally remastered and everything. But it's really nice. It's got shiny letters for the Eraserhead part. I like it. It's all in Japanese. It's cool, Comes with a little booklet as well. Some art cards. This is something that I found randomly when I was in Japan. And this wasn't something I just was like, I'm going to look on eBay for this very specific film. I happened to find it, and I bought it because it was really, really cheap. But then you get the second half. This is the one that I relate to more as a collector. Getting the same film on different formats. Or not even just different formats. Like, maybe one of each edition of the film and its subsidiaries. Say, Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, one of my favourite films. I have seen people post on Twitter, which, when I used to follow Edgar Wright, would occasionally like it or retweet it or comment on it, whatever. And the person would have, here's the Australian Blu-ray, here's the, American Blu-ray, here's the British Blu-ray, here's the DVD, here's the DVD collector set, here's the steelbook, all the 20 different steelbooks, the 4K editions, the soundtrack, the vinyl, the deluxe vinyl set, which comes with 2 vinyls, here's the second CD pack, here's all these other different things, plus some figurines and the video game, like, all these different formats of the media. And I saw that and I was like, wow, that's really cool. I have, like, 2 versions of it on 4K. I think three versions of it on 4K. 2 of them being basically the same steelbook, but one by itself, one in a collector's set, which just comes with a slip. It's from like Taiwan. There was the DVD. I never bought the DVD. I never stooped that low. And I got the standard Australian Blu-ray, which was actually the collector's edition because it came with a sleeve, the comic book artwork. That was what introduced me to the film. I think I'd seen it on TV one time. I was like, wow, this is really great. I got to buy the Blu-ray. So I did. And that was before I even was really collecting Blu-rays. Yeah, so I've got some steelbooks. I've got the game on Switch. I've got some figurines, I'm not going to go insane on it, but it's like I do have several copies of that and Blade Runner 2049. I've got like 7 or 8 or 9 copies of the film each. And I think that's enough, Like, most of the time it's not the exact same goddamn version, except for those 2 steelbooks. But again, I bought one because it was limited edition 4K steelbook, and then, hey, look, you can actually get the exact same steelbook 7 months later, but with a slipcover, and the slipcover looks fucking incredible, so I bought that. Hey, and I bought the standard 4K anyway, which came with the slipcover. It's beautiful. So I've had, there's benefits like that, and even Blade Runner 2049, several steelbooks. It's a very beautiful film, and the artwork really represents that, so I've got several different copies, but that's also like my favorite film of all time. So, I'm okay with that. So it comes to a point of, when does the meme end? When does the joke end? Or do you look at this as the most serious thing ever? I have 46 copies of, I don't know, Frogger on Blu-ray. It's not a film, I know. I'm trying to think of a random film. But the thing is too, is like, for me, you got to go the logical step. If you're going to go, I'm going to be hardballing collecting one thing, one film, one show, probably just one film, maybe a limited season, one season show kind of deal, on just a one format. That's where I'd stipulate. Just the one format. And I wouldn't do DVDs or Blu-rays. I know that they are slimmer and probably a lot easier to buy, but I would not do that because they were, especially X-Men 2, that's insanely mass-produced because, blockbuster, all-star cast fucking superhero movie. And guess what, baby? There are 3 billion copies on the planet. And you have 20 of them. What's the point, So you get to something like a VHS, and maybe it's much more interesting because less of them around, harder to get good quality versions unless you're usually in America, because my god, is there a bargain bin in America. I want to go there just to see their bargain bins, and I'm like, we don't have that in Australia. You go to JB Hi-Fi, there's no VHS. You can still go to like Salvos and shit and get like or Savers and whatever and get VHS, but very, very rarely. They usually throw that kind of shit out because nobody buys that stuff anymore. They know that nobody buys it anymore. The collector markets that happen in the US and the UK don't really happen in Australia. And I think for the US, it's a much more bigger thing than the UK, mostly because a lot more people, but also because consumerism's kind of crazy over there. A lot of people buying a lot of shit. So I know that sounds ironic because of the shelf behind me, but it's art. It's fine. And you know what? It's not several copies of the same fucking movie, except for like 3 times, 4, 5. I've got a lot of copies of The Thing. I love The Thing, but again, a lot of it's just steelbooks because I really like the artwork. It's never really a different version of the same. Like, it's never really a different disc. So many different artworks. My God. But yeah. It's just a little crazy to me. It's fine. Again, there's never anything really wrong. God, I feel like these fucking videos are like Seinfeld, like that one where there's not like there's anything wrong with it. There's nothing wrong with it. You can inherently do whatever the fuck you want with your money. I spend it on movies. Half of them are crap. It doesn't matter. I enjoy it. But it's like, do I want to spend? And if I do want to spend my money on really balls deep into this one VHS copy of Titanic, do I want to be specific to, maybe I'll just get that VHS of Titanic, or I want to get every single Blu-ray and DVD, every single VHS, every Laserdisc ever released. That's when I think it goes too far. You got to have a rule. You got to have self-control. What one do you want to do? How hard do you want to go into it? A lot of these films are like usually, big budget films that made an impact on pop culture. People know about these films. So for the most part, people are collecting these films because other people know about them. So when you say, I have 60 copies of the VHS of Godzilla from 1998, people will be like, oh, that's hilarious because that's this dumb movie. And of course I know about it because it's in the popular culture's zeitgeist. Because it was a big popular movie when it came out. Popular in terms of like people watching it, not in terms of people liking it. So it's like, there seems to be a very specific degree of what people will go to buy these things. Again, Titanic, you know about that. Godzilla 98, you know what that film is. You know what X-Men 2 is. You've at least heard of these properties, so you'll know what they are to some degree. For the most film-going audiences, at least. But then there's... I gotta obviously mention Redland Media's video. Redland Media had done their video talking about Nuki, because they had so many VHS copies of it. And they made a whole video talking about getting VHS graded and everything, which is a whole different topic, which I actually don't think I'll ever cover it, because I'd have to ship something to the US and get fucked. They did a really good video talking about it. But also, what I found so interesting about it was how they had all these copies of Nuki, found the best condition one, sent that off to get graded, something that they'll never watch, they'll never open it. And every other copy of Nuki that they had, they destroyed. And that was a film that, like, no one's heard of, or very, very, very little amount of people have heard of it, and hardly anyone's got a copy, and if you do, most people might have seen Redland Media's shelf and would have sent them their copy, or they would have put it up on eBay and Redland Media would have bought it because that's what they said they've even done the video. And then after that video came out, in Australia, you could look it up on eBay, we had a few listings in Australia, but not for the exact same VHS. No, we had a Video Easy one. Yeah. That these people had. So someone had a copy of Nuki and sold it for $220, just about, And it's kind of hilarious that someone was able to just have this copy of Nuki lying around, not even mint condition. Sold it for probably a hell of a lot more than it's worth just because it was funny. Just because, hey, that video got like 1 million views. I can sell this. And they did. So, yeah. No, that's all I can really think of when it comes to this. I don't think there's much necessity in buying the same thing. It's all for the gag. It's all to show it off, to be like, hey, look at this. I've got 100 copies of this movie. And you'd be like, you're a fucking idiot. All that money, you could have bought like so much other stuff, The amount of times I'll have... I do have family members occasionally mention, oh, look at all the money you could get from selling off this shelf, And I'm like, why would I... Why is it that people think of that? They see the shelf and their immediate response is, oh, he spent too much money on this. How much can he get out of it? Like, why is that the response? This is what I love. This is my passion. is what I want to keep. I very rarely sell Blu-rays, and when I do, it's usually steelbooks that they're steelbooks, so they're collectible in design, so I can resell them because they're collectible items. And then you've got something like, maybe I've upgraded a film from DVD to Blu-ray, from Blu-ray to 4K, and I don't need the DVD or that Blu-ray anymore. And maybe it's a film that my parents won't watch, so, I've bought the DVD, I want to sell it. That's when I sell it off. I don't need several copies of it. I got the original version of Beetlejuice, and I got the Blu-ray, and I've got the 4K. I don't. I never bought the Blu-ray of Beetlejuice because it had the exact same master as the DVD. It was just on Blu-ray, and I didn't need to do that to myself. I was like, oh wait, there'll be a 4K eventually, and look, there was one, and it's actually over there because it's the 4K steelbook. Yeah, it's good. Actually, I did buy the Blu-ray. I bought it as a steelbook. Oh my god, that is... How about that? I actually did. I actually bought the Blu-ray of the film because it was a steelbook. I didn't want to buy the standard edition release. I wanted the steelbook version. I got the steelbook version back when I was really big on collecting steelbooks. Anyway, that's really all I can think about for this one. So, I don't know. Let me know what your thoughts are. Do you think it's worth it to go out of your way to buy this great deal of a selection of one film? Would you want to have a specific rule in mind? Oh, it's got to be an obscure film that no one will want, and I can get 1,000 copies for like $1 a piece. Or do I want to make it a really popular film, so then when I make TikToks out of it, or make videos on YouTube, or whatever the fuck, I can become really popular because that people will be like, hey, he's that guy who owns a lot of that popular film that everyone has seen. There's nothing really special about it. It's just kind of funny. And that's it. That's like the whole joke. It's just kind of funny. And then just roll with that for like years. I don't know. Anyway, like, I think when it gets to the point where you buy enough copies that you have enough of a shelf, that you have enough to brag about, and then to like, well, really just to brag, to be like, hey, guys, check out my shelf here. I've got like 100 copies of Titanic. I'm like, wow, that's great. Have all of my copies, and then everyone gives you free copies of Titanic, and then it pays off, because then you can sell them all off for $1 billion. How much money did Titanic get at the box office? $1 billion? There you go. You can get $1 billion back with all your VHS purchases. I don't know, maybe that's the scheme here. It's all got to link back to you getting more money out of it all. Or just free copies. Which seems worthless, because you've already got the film. So what's the point? Bye.